Hey, welcome back to the Positive Side Podcast. Host Jeremy Todd. Glad you are tuning in. You know, it's funny. Like I left work a little bit ago, and I'm always a little jacked up. Like just by nature, I'm always fired up. And I drank one of these things called Rehab, and I don't know if it's like a rock star or something. And I drank they come in like these gigantic 24-ounce cans, and I drank I don't know, maybe a quarter of it. And now I can't sit still. I'm talking a million miles an hour. So everybody listening around the world, maybe you can take your podcast thing and slow the speech down because I am jacked up. But hey, I'm glad you're tuning in. And big shout out to Pat Richardson today. Much love, Pat. You bought 4 books from me. I mean, come on, that's just it's more than kind, and I really appreciate it. They're $10 a piece, and hopefully Josh will get one in the stocking stuffer this year, which would be great. And it's interesting with the book. I just tell my buddy Ben, he's going to be on the show here in just a second. And there's a lot of things in the book that are very, very personal to me. And they talk about growing up in the neighborhood that I grew up in. It talks about the importance of my family, the mother of my children, the kids. There's just a lot of things in there that I went through. I talk about my bankruptcy that I filed, I don't know, it's been 10, 15 years ago, but in my authenticity about all these things I struggle with, my struggle with depression, all that stuff's in the book. So, I'm a little worried. Not as much people around the world that listen to the podcast and get the book. It's really my hometown. And but what I go back to, and this is really extremely important to me, is the friendships that I have in my hometown. So it's like this double-edged sword where I'm worried about what they say, but also at the same time, I'm not worried because it's immediate family and friends. It's a weird dynamic. Because some of the stuff that's in there, and man, isn't that like a little teaser? You got to get the book now, right? $10. Go to jeremytodd.com, pre-order that bad boy. Pre-order as many as you want. And I think we're going to shoot for December 15th to the 18th or something like that to get the book on Amazon. So that's coming too. But so all good things. But it's interesting. I talk about the family and friends. And today I got one of my best friends on the show, Ben Gleason. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you. 37-year friend.
37 years is a long, long time.
Doesn't seem like that long. We're getting old, bud. We're getting old.
Well, we are getting old, and 37 years definitely. It sounds like a big number when you just talk about it, but then you look back through stories and life and all that good stuff. It's just crazy. But the question I have for my buddy Ben Gleason.
Before you get started, I just want to say one thing. I want to say hello to everybody in Fort Wayne and the surrounding areas, except Alex Haggard.
Of course, that has become an inside joke, but that's I'm sure he'll love to hear this one. So, Alex, much love to you. Hey, Alex Haggard's in the book actually, which is exciting. Ben, quick question, man, and this is one of the things I respect most about you is your love for family, and I really want to talk about this because it's so important to me. In when I went through gone through the separation with the mother of my children, and it's tough. You went through a similar situation, and then you also took on 4 kids. So just in general, I want to talk about mentality and mindset with that. Number one, what does family mean to you? And then how did the dynamic of your family change when you brought 4 kids that, for bad terminology, lack of terminology, aren't yours?
Well, I tell you what, it just effortlessly happened. It's odd. They play wonderful together. Somebody on the outside looking in would not know that they're not my kids, biologically, obviously. Mason, who was just a young little guy when I met my wife, Kelsey, he was just a little guy. I was feeding him pretzels as he was walking around the table in my house. And Kelsey was my girlfriend at the time. She's like, "Don't give him a pretzel." And I said, "He's fine." She's like, "He's not even one." And I'm like, "He's fine." So, it's amazing how they intermingled and meshed together really well. I don't even hardly remember putting the effort in. It happened. And I think it's because I had such a great example. My mother and father, fantastic examples of what a husband and a wife should be. In my life. And then, when I went through my separation, what have you, they were right there, and so I know that I was in a bad place, but man, I'll tell you what, having the family with you during that time, like I said, it got me through it. I mean, it was just, I felt, I actually sat back and I thought, man, this could really be bad had I not have such a great mother and a father and, brothers that were checking on me, and then even close friends. And I'll bring Alex into it. That one of the evenings that early on, I sat at the Green Frog with Alex for 4 hours, just shooting this stuff. And he was just checking on me, making sure I was good. And you can't ever say thanks enough in that situation, obviously.
What do you recommend? And this is what I find it interesting, because, we take for granted a lot of times of our mental strength and what we put ourselves through. But I would ask you this, and what would you say to somebody that does not have that background, that does not have those parents to look up to say, hey, what do I do in this situation? Maybe they don't even know their mom, and maybe their dad, or maybe they don't know their dad, whatever the case is. What do you say to someone that's maybe 14, 15, 16, 17, 18? And I guess more towards leadership. And that's really where I think that I want to go with this question is, what do you say to somebody that doesn't have that leadership role, that doesn't have that parent? How do you do that?
Well, I think probably one of the biggest things is you got to surround yourself with good people. And you had mentioned that on some of your previous podcasts is, toxic people, getting them out of your life. So, it's very difficult if some of the toxic people and you're 14 or 15 are your parents or what have you, or close, and you can't get away from that. However, I guess things can always be worse. My mother always used to say that they can always be worse. And I used to say, what are you talking about? This is, terrible point in my life. And I sit back and I think, boy, they could have got worse, so it's amazing. So I think just having a positive mindset, and thinking, that does not kill us, makes us stronger. It's a cliche, but it's true. You know what I mean? It's true. So working your way through things, being positive. And I know it's hard when things are stacked up against you, but that's what makes success so much sweeter, getting through it,
Well, it's funny you said, because yesterday I had one of those days, and I put this on the Positive Side Facebook page. If you haven't liked that page, make sure you go over there and like it. I think I'm 15 people away from 11,000. How about your boy get on that thing? But I put on there. This was yesterday. Today was one of those days. ... And then there's a picture that says, when you have a bad day, always remember someone else's day is worse. Be thankful for what you have. And I think that's so powerful. We won the gene lottery by being born in the United States. Now, there's people all around the world that live in great countries that are listening to the show. There's people that have been in tougher countries. But, man, we are so blessed. We
Absolutely.
are extremely blessed. And even it's interesting with the most recent, and I don't know why I'm switching topics to this, but I want to talk about community more, because, the community we grew up in was diverse and people all over the place. But, man, this is such a bad transition, but I want to talk about it. With the political environment that we're in, there's so much headbutting and so much fighting and so much I'm right, you're wrong, and all this stuff. How do we get along? What do we need to do as a community to get along better? Because at the end of the day, man, I am the most independent politically person I think out there. I just want everybody to get along, man. I really. If you and I are completely different, we're on two completely different sides of the aisle when it comes to politically. But when we take our political hats off and just sit down and start having conversations, man, we can solve the world's problems. What comes to mind when you talk about? Because I know you're obviously passionate about some of the things that you talk about and I love following you on social media. Which, if you haven't followed Ben, make sure you do it. Safe Place Rifle Works. Like his page, go and comment on his stuff. He put some great memes out there. I love it. But what do you recommend to all people when we talk about community, and how do you step up and how do you bring people together?
Well, I took a class in intercultural communications in college, and I thought, okay, whatever, I got to take it. It's elective, right? And I get in the class, and it was not diverse. It was there's a lot of people. I assumed, obviously from skin color, were just like me, and this is at IPFW in Fort Wayne, which Fort Wayne's a very diverse, but I thought this is kind of odd. This is a cross section of people that we've got. This is odd. However, one of the assignments is to go outside of class and, ask some of the things that are most important to you. Ask somebody else what's most important to them. very, very ironically enough, no matter, I interviewed a Muslim, I interviewed a Jewish person, I interviewed an atheist, I interviewed a African-American guy, I interviewed a Mexican guy, an Asian guy. I mean, I just went through the gamut, and everybody, ironically enough, had the exact same things that meant to them, family, the exact same things in common. The only difference was skin color and maybe where they worshiped and maybe their accent or what have you. But when it comes all down to it, everybody is almost after the same things in a way, and I should say, goals of
peace,
but family, and
yeah,
just
family.
Want to get along and everything to be, that's generally the consensus of what I got. So if you're asking me, what can we do? We've got to find some common ground, if that makes sense. And the one thing that I thought was common, the thing that made sense to me, was the American flag. I think when some people look at the American flag, maybe they see division, maybe they see 200-300 years ago. I see an idea that our forefathers thought was one of the most important things, getting away from England, telling them to shove it. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what 1776 is so great about. I mean, when the fireworks go off, Gary Graham, I'm yelling, "Suck it, England," every year. My kids yell, "Suck it, England." When we're at the.
I just love everybody in England that loves the Positive Side podcast.
Right on.
It's a one-side story, but I love you.
My kids say, "Suck it, England," when we're at the Tin Caps game. So at the end of the day, is we had something in common. All Americans had. Hey, people either came here for a better life, or won the lottery and were born into this wonderful country. But at the end of the day, is we got to sit back and think of the things that made us great. Obviously, being diverse is a great thing. Everybody doesn't have to conform. I'm not saying that, but we need to find some common ground. It's not going to be religion. It's definitely not going to be politics. Freedom. So when people ask me, "Hey, where are you at on the, are you conservative? Are you a Democrat?" I'm like, I'm a patriot. I'm a patriot. At the end of the day, is we need to remember what the patriots had in mind. That's what we need to emulate.
One of my favorite patriots is George Washington. I've talked about this on this podcast a billion times. I read the first book I read about George Washington was The First Conspiracy, which blew me away. I'm a big George Washington fan. Then I watched the Washington history documentary. It was like a 3-part series. If you haven't watched that,
I did.
It's so good.
Fantastic.
It's so good. I love that dude. And he was just
he had wooden teeth. What's not to love about that?
Well, yeah, he was just an absolute. Well, he was just a complete leader, and he was so open-minded to so many different types of people, different backgrounds.
How young was he? I mean, that's the thing that's crazy.
Oh, absolutely.
When you think about it, this day and age, you'd be like, "What do you know? You're 30." I mean, he's
correct. Yeah, and he went through a lot before he was 30, which he was amazing. And I just talk about my favorite presidents. He's probably my favorite president of all time, and I just got so much respect for him and what he did and how he brought this country together originally. And it's almost to the point that we need another George Washington to step up. I mean, Ben Gleason, how about that? Hey, how about 2024, Ben Gleason? You got my vote, brother.
I appreciate that. You're going to write me in? I'd probably have maybe 2. I can maybe talk my son in.
Yeah, there you go. There's your running mate, brother. I appreciate that. Another reason I got Ben on, and this is extremely important, this is part of this podcast, is getting people unstuck. We had a great conversation earlier, just very brief, and you were talking, and sometimes when we have conversation, this is for anybody, any conversation you have, I always try and be extremely present in the conversation, no matter what I have going on in my life. And sometimes I may be even having a different conversation with somebody, but it's a hollow answer to somebody else. If I'm talking to you on the phone and I'm present with you and having the conversation, things resonate with me. And what resonated with me today was, again, the Positive Side podcast. When you listen to the intro, it's the positive side of life, health, business, family, motivation. It's helping you get unstuck in life. One of the things Ben mentioned to me just nonchalantly was, "Hey, man, one of the things I've always wanted to do was just start a business." And I think this is what's beautiful about the Positive Side podcast, beautiful about this country, beautiful about understanding that no matter what age you are at, and this is something that I'm 42, Ben's 43, he's way older than me.
I appreciate that,
but it's never too late to go for your goals and dreams. Ben started a business, Safe Place Fireworks or Rifle Works. I just want to say fireworks.
Well, because Gary, my father says the same thing to this day.
So Safe Place Rifle Works.
You're all right.
So I love it, but you talked a little bit about your mindset and what went through your head and like why you decided now. And you're still working, right? You still got the other job. You're
Absolutely.
still paying for the bills. And that's another thing I've talked about on the show a billion times. Just because you want to go for your goals and dreams doesn't mean you got to quit your job right away and just jump off the cliff. It works for some people, I get it, but it wasn't the right trip for me. It's not the right trip for Ben. So Ben, why did you decide at 40, let's just 42 when you started the business, I think officially, right?
Yep.
Why now? And a couple things. Why now? Why didn't you do it way before? And where do you see the future in your career?
Well, I'm an operations manager for a foam manufacturer currently. I'm in charge of doing Kaizen events, continuous improvement. I love it. I love my job. I love working with the people I do. My boss, the plant manager, I'm number 2 there, but my boss, the plant manager, is a fantastic guy. One of the, what you see is what you get. Heart on the sleeve kind of guy. And I'm the same way, so, I mean, we just kind of immediately mesh really well together. Kind of reminds me of a brother in a way. So I love my job. I really do. So it's not oh man, I hate going in. I passionately enjoy my 52-minute drive into work because I get my mind right, and then on my way home, I'm decompressing. I'm thinking the things that I didn't get accomplished that I want to get accomplished. And I'm kind of, nonchalantly celebrating the things that I did get done for the day. However, that's the fuel for my fire, but I felt like I was missing something and not like I wasn't whole or what have you, but, I had constantly had people chirping in my ear, not saying, you shouldn't do this, telling me, why don't you do this? It makes sense. So, I'm very fortunate. I had positive people. One of the most positive people in that whole endeavor was Josh Lotz, the plant manager there. And he said, hey, why aren't you doing,
That's true leadership.
Why are you doing this full time?
I love that dude already. It's true leadership.
Why are you doing this full time? And I said, why don't you start a business? And I thought, I had been doing rifle builds. I've been doing modifications and what have you to my own personal stuff and what have you. And I thought, I just need to jump in, and what have you. Now, not as glamorous as closing up shop and 100% going in. I've got 7 children, a wife. I've got a family to take care of. I've got parents that are 4 miles down the road that I'm up on the roof, and I'm not sure how many years I'm about to do that, but doing the leaves and what have you. But I love what I'm doing, but I felt like I needed something more. And growing up at an early age, I was always working with my guns. I had guns. You remember those days, bow and arrow and what have you. But I wasn't a hunter. I just didn't like the hunting aspect of it. So in a way, it's been my passion. It's been there all this time, and it's been around people that said, you should do that. You should do it. So I've heard you tell stories about people that are, the haters that are out there saying, well, yeah, you'll never make it. You're wasting your time. I had some of those people early on in my life telling me, oh, you think you're going to be a plant manager? You think you're going to be a supervisor or manager? And that was great fuel for my fire in my early years of my career that helped me continue on in my education, helped me, not settle. I told myself one day, I'm not going to be 35 working at this place. I worked those jobs before. And they weren't bad jobs. They just weren't a good fit for me. And I've heard people say, well, you just got to kind of conform. I'm not a conformist. I've never been a conformist. And I will say that anybody that knows Benjamin Gleason knows that I just don't mesh with people just to mesh, and like it or leave it. I don't, it is what it is. However, I was at a great point in my life. 2020 is, let's be honest, is a shit year. Okay.
It's pretty shitty, my friend. There's no question about that.
But in this political climate, it's on my website, this political climate, there's never been a better time to start a rifle company. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And not from a standpoint of, oh, we're going to have a revolution, from a standpoint of protecting your family, and I think we talked about family. Family is the most important thing, being a father, you're a father. Most important thing is protecting your children. So it just seemed like it fell in line. Yeah. I mean, there wasn't a lot of thought, and it sounds silly to say that. There wasn't a lot of thought. I had a lot of great people in my life. Mike Vanover, who helped me out. I had tons of people that, even it is funny to say, my father was laid off for many years, working at Dana, then got a job at the airport, had a great job. I'd go to work with him in the summer, and it was awesome. Go up in the towers when the planes are coming in. I mean, it was great. He was in charge of all maintenance for the entire Fort Wayne airport. It was awesome. My dad's a nervous Nelly. I love him to death. He's very passionate, one of the hardest working people on the planet. He was your coach. You remember how he was. He doesn't cuss, he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke. I mean, he's a solid dude. And he was nervous if they, I can't imagine you're going to, starting a company, doing those types of things. But you know what? He was supportive. My mom was actually the one to get me my first gun, get me my, in those types of things. So it's just amazing. And all that stuff just comes back full. So I've had a very fortunate to have a great family. And I think that's kind of what got this going.
Well, I think it's just a matter of, and this is what's resonated with me when you're talking about this. It's like, and anybody listening to this podcast, no matter where you are around the world, it's just, the timing doesn't have to be exactly like, you don't have to there's not gonna be this picture perfect time. Like, okay, at age 30, I'm gonna do this. Sometimes in life, my life isn't the same as yours isn't the same as mine. We just go through this journey, and decisions you make, it could be make a decision to have children or do this or do that, whatever the case is. And there's no right or wrong answers. Sometimes this opportunity doesn't come to you until later in your life, and that's okay. I read the other day, again, I work for a big dealership called Kelly Automotive Group. And I was told, I'm going to butcher this number, but Jim Kelly, the guy that started the dealership that I work at, he started at age 67. I mean, and there's all kinds of stories. I think Sam Walton, same thing. It was he was way up there in age. I think Colonel Sanders, same thing with KFC. There's all these stories about people starting this business. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Well, I don't know about that, but it's all these people that start these businesses and later in their life, and it's just a matter of just trusting your gut. And for a cheap plug, but looking at the positive side, I mean, hey, I still got my health. Hey, so I still got my passion. I still got my income. I got my family. I got my job. And this, but this is what I love to do on the side. That's why I do the Positive Side podcast, man. I mean, I'm not making billions from doing this show, but it's my passion, and I love doing it. So it's just a matter of finding that niche and doing what you love to do, which is so important. Ben, one of the greatest books. I know you've listened to this podcast, and we're going to get into these questions, which are so important to me. But I'm going to sneak in a couple questions in the middle of this thing that I don't ask very often. I know you haven't heard these questions, which is going to be great. So we're going to go to the 7 questions from John Maxwell's book, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions, and then 2 bonus questions right in the middle that you won't be ready for.
Wow, fantastic. I can't wait. I didn't know there was going to be a test. I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, brother, absolutely. Well, question number 1 for my buddy Benjamin Gleason is, Ben, what's the greatest lesson you've ever learned?
Wow. I was a plant manager at a facility in Bluffton, Indiana. I had a great team. I had Anton Talamantes was on my team. I had I had 3 Marines, an Army, and a Navy guy. He was a nuclear submarinist maintenance guy. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, we had a great squad. I mean, solid squad. If we had to go softball or street fist fight, I mean, I was liking my chances. They were pretty good. But we had a great team, and that company sold. The owner was getting old. He didn't have a succession plan, and he sold. I lost my job, and we were killing it. We were doing like 28% EBITDA, and we were killing it. And I lost my job. The private investment firm came through, and they said, "Hey, see you later." And I thought, wow. I mean, I was down in the dumps. I mean, I had just got a divorce. My dog died. And then
sometimes that could be worse than the divorce.
it was. I love that dog. It's fantastic. So right on. Jaeger, he was a great dog. So he passed, and then I lost my job. And I thought, man, what could go worse? And my mom saying, hey, it can always get worse. It can always be worse, and what have you. And I just, instead of sitting back, looking for a job to immediately replace it, and not being satisfied unless I rose to that level, I took a step back. I didn't go after a plant manager position. I went back after supervision position at a facility. I became a manager there. So I think taking a step back, it was a humbling experience. I mean, let's be honest. I know there's people out there like Cousin Eddie, who's holding out for management position, right? In the Christmas vacation, right?
Yeah.
So
management.
Yeah, right. So, and I took a step back, and that humbling experience, similar one that I had, through my separation, what have you, was good to kind of recharge your batteries. So that was probably the biggest for me, is to be able to get knocked down and then take a position. And then I got called by a headhunter, said, hey, we love your credentials. We want you to come work here. Immediately fit. And that's where I'm at now. So it's odd, but that's the way it works.
Well, Man, I mean, people have to listen. I mean, let's break that apart a little bit. I mean, when you're rising at the top, your ego also. Let's talk about your ego's at an all-time high too. I am the baddest dude around. I'm crushing it. Life is good, and then you get kicked in the you know what, and then you're back down. But then you take a position that's even less. It's just a matter of getting going. I work with a good friend of mine. His name is Bill Finolio. Big shout out to Bill. I know you don't listen, but that's okay. But great lesson. He had some great big job, and I don't know what he was doing, but he couldn't find a job at the time. This has been like 6-7 years ago, and he had a job at IHOP, and just making pancakes. But he had to be doing something. You know, you're not going to get rich doing that. That's not the dream job. But he was just swallowed his ego, swallowed his pride, and let me get out there and do the best possible job I possibly can do at this position I got, and then let everything else fall where it is. And that's a great lesson for everybody out there that, you know, and especially this time. The situation we're in now with COVID and all this other craziness going on, people losing their jobs. I mean, it's happening all around the world, all over the country, and it's bad right now. And maybe it's that opportunity if you're this, you know, CEO. I mean, not a CEO, but you're a high upper level management or even a great salesperson, and then you get laid off or get fired or whatever the case is. Maybe swallow that pride and go back and do something that's humbling. You know, why not? I mean, why not? The ego is a mofo, and that ego can run you right into the ground. But just getting it going, getting that motivation, getting that inspiration going, sometimes that's all you need to get to the next level in life. Question number 2 is, what are you learning now?
Well, you know, the cliche, you stop learning when you're dead. I just had a gentleman assist me with some stuff in my business. You know, I was struggling, had some issues, and couldn't figure out, just troubleshooting some stuff, and reached out to somebody, came over to my shop. I kind of just sat back and watched. And I've always been I'm not a book, pick a book up, read it. Oh, that's how you do that.
Better read my book. Come on back.
I'll read your book.
That's awesome.
But I'm not a big book reader. And I was just talking with my campus about that. He goes, I don't read books, but I'm going to read JT's book.
Hell yeah, you.
So right on. So, but no, it was, so I think like when we talked about the humbling experience, it's okay not to know everything. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
So sitting back and, reaching out for some help and that's how you build. That's how you build friendships. That's how you and you don't know everything. So at the end of the day that just happened just early this week. And that was another humbling experience, but hey,
it's trying to get better, right?
Yep, absolutely.
I'm listening to a book right now, an audio book called Expert Secrets of, I think it's Russell Brunson's book. I think it's in the ClickFunnels. I've been so anti-ClickFunnel. Russell Brunson is a monster when it comes to stuff like that. And again, I don't know anything about it. He just intimidates the hell out of me. But I just thought, you know what, I'm going to listen to that book. And so far so good. But again, it's getting out of the comfort zone, just learning something, man. I mean, learning into the history books. I was the worst student in the world. I was terrible at school, terrible. Barely made it through high school. Dropped out of college, terrible. And for whatever reason, in the last 5-10 years, I
don't remember it like that.
Well, maybe the street smarts got me through it a little bit, but in the last 5-10 years, man, it's just been more fascinating now than ever. Just learning about everything, about history, and I've been on this major nerd kick with the universe and stars and planets. I mean, I'm nerding my kids out. So
we're just this little speck.
Oh my gosh, dude! I heard the other day that there was like this asteroid that went by, supposed to go by on election day, and it was like 10,000 miles away. And I'm probably butchering all this stuff, but just, Google it, whatever the case is. But there was one on Friday the 13th, which was last week, that was 313 miles away. And we never even saw it coming. No idea. I guess if it gets in line between the Earth and the sun, our satellites or our telescopes or whatever or binoculars can't see it. And it was just in some line that we never saw it, 313 miles away, and we didn't know it until it was past. Crazy. So that is the crazy stuff of the universe. So I'm on this major nerd kick with the universe, but neither here nor there. Bonus question right in the middle before we get to the failure question is Ben Gleason. What is the greatest, least expensive gift you've ever been given?
Well, I'd say it's probably for my kids. You remember Santa's Workshop at PB?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, my mom gave me like $5 or something, and I could get like presents for like
40 people.
Everybody, people donated stuff. It was down in Moore Hall. It was great. The kids got me a keychain. Liam, it was my middle boy, second oldest. And he got me a keychain, just said dad on it. And it's so awesome to see kids on Christmas when they get you something, especially when, they went and picked it out of Santa's workshop. It took me back. It took me back to that time.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I mean, tears, man, just over a keychain. My daughter, would make stuff in art class, what have you, and write dad, or they'd take a picture at school and she'd be holding a sign that said, I love you, dad. You got those on my desk at work, so things that I guess came from my kids didn't require any money. It was them thinking of me or their teacher saying you should make this for your dad because he'd love it. That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But probably, my son called me on the way to work on my birthday. My daughter had already left for school at that time, but both the boys had called me and just said, "Hey, Dad, we want to wish you a happy birthday." I mean, you don't need a gift. You know what I mean? You don't need a gift. My son said, "Dad, I don't know what to get you. Everything you like, I can't afford, or I'm too young to buy it." I think he was talking about guns and ammo and what have you. So it's kind of funny that he said that, but I've been a fan of some premium stuff, obviously, but at the end of the day is, the things that mean the most are your kids. I got a wonderful card from my wife, thanking all, on Father's Day one time, just, hey, what you do for us, and that was awesome. So to me, way better than anything you could buy at the store. I did get a shirt for my son one time that said, lions don't something
lions don't leave or lose sleep over the thoughts of sheep.
Exactly.
I think he was obviously I love that quote.
I think he was calling me a lion, I'm not sure. Absolutely. But I'm definitely not a sheep, and I'm not raising any sheep, so that was awesome.
When I always think about that stuff when it comes to kids and stuff, I mean, I am just such a freaking softie, man. I like my kids do anything that, but you could put DA and I'm already crying. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, Danny Adams had told me, he said, I had 2 boys at the time, and I was getting ready to have a girl. And he had already had a daughter. And I think he was getting ready to have a second. It was just odd. We're back and forth. Yeah. And he said, being a dad of boys is awesome, I'm sure, but nothing like being a father of a girl. And I'm like, whatever, he's just saying that, he said that, and I'm thinking, whatever, buddy. Until I saw her, until I heard daddy, or that she held my arm watching a show or holding my one finger. I mean, melting your heart, man.
It's over, man.
Yeah,
it's over, man.
Absolutely.
I love that, dude. Because, man, that's just, it's so important. And again, this time of year, man, when you think about holidays and Thanksgiving and Christmas, which we may not be able to, my family canceled Thanksgiving, and so I'm not going to be able to see my mom. And, it's a crazy time right now. I mean, my little sister, you don't know this, my little sister Victoria, she got Down syndrome. She's in just hopefully getting out of the ICU today. She had COVID bad and major breathing problems, and she's never been away from my mom ever. I called my mom yesterday, and she was just a wreck, understandably so. And then when I went to saw her trying to be strong as as she always been. I mean, strong as a rock. But man, that's tough, dude. And so when you talk about family and what that means, it's just this time of year, it's kind of weird, man. Like it's a double-edged sword again. I keep saying double-edged sword, but I get to spend more time with my immediate family, my kids. So I'm not going to my mom's. I'm not going really anywhere for Thanksgiving, probably not Christmas, but it's just more time intimate with my kids, which I still get the same amount of time off work. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just hanging out with them. So I'm looking forward to that. But also, bummed out because I'm not going to be able to see the rest of my family. But, it's just when you're talking about your kids, man, it's just something special. And for people that don't have kids, hey, that's your thing, and much love to you. But you're kids of your parents, and that's how they feel about you. So I always tell that to people too. Well, I'm not going to have kids, but you're kids. Your parents brought you into this world too, and that's what you mean to them. And
it's funny that you say that, but I just wanted to give a shout out to all the fathers out there because talk about unsung heroes, that whenever there's an issue, they always say, well, he didn't have a father in his life. But when it comes around to Father's Day, everybody's trying to hijack the holiday, we're fathers too. We're a two, there's nothing like the love of a father. I know you know that. I had the greatest example in the world for father, and he did not. So you can rewrite that.
Totally.
You don't have to be a statistic, if you will. He told my mom, I give my boys what I longed for. Makes sense. So, but shout out to all the fathers out there, because it's a tough job. And I'm going to be honest with you, one day a year, Father's Day is not enough. It's not enough.
Give it up.
It's a 24/7, 365, buddy, being a dad.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, same thing with my dad. My dad, he never knew his dad ever. And he took what he had, and he was adopted by my grandfather, which is much love to Grandpa Rob, 93 years old, still kicking it, sharp as a tack. But man, mad love for that dude too. Question number 3, I kind of got sidetracked, but let's get back into it. Question number 3 is, how has failure shaped your life?
Well, like I said, I've always been a positive guy. You let it bother you. You got to. That's fuel to the fire.
That's part of it, isn't it?
I remember back in the day, missing getting a promotion at work. I was going to school full time. I just got my degree. I went back. I was going for mechanical engineering after I'd already graduated, and applied for a position at the facility I was working at, and got knocked down. And they were asking me questions. So, well, where do you see yourself at in 5 years? And I said, well, I'd like to be a supervisor, get in a management position here. And where do you see yourself at 10 years? Well, I said, well, I'd like to be a plant manager someday.
Sure.
And the 3 of the 4 guys started laughing, and I didn't think it was funny, obviously.
Yeah,
That's why I flipped that freaking conference room table on them. But I just sat there and I thought, my blood was boiling, obviously, but I thought, man, that was fuel to my fire, so when I became a plant manager 8 years later at another facility, I sent them a fruit basket and a thank you. And I wasn't derogatory or negative. I was probably a little bit of a smart ass in a nice way. I got a way of doing that. But I said, thank you for not having the confidence in me. Thank you for putting your boot heel on me a little bit, because that's just the extra push I needed to get through, So that failure, like I said, it just kind of, and somebody told me this once, said, you can let it bother you for a little bit, but then you got to get back to work,
and you should let it bother you.
Yeah. I mean, it should be like, well, I'm just roll the punches. No, it bothered me, but that was fuel for the fire. And let me tell you what, it was a hot fire, buddy. And, but you know what, that's what got me through it. So, I wouldn't absolutely change anything failure-wise in my entire life, because it makes you who you are. It sharpens you, makes you tougher.
Yeah, when it comes to failure, and what's going through my head when you're talking about that is, for all these people out there that have gone through these failures that aren't using them as fire. Like, I mean, who is so and so to tell you that you're not good enough? Who are you? You don't know anything that I've been through. You don't know what I'm going through. And this is I'm talking to everybody out there listening around the world. Like, we've all been in that situation. So what are you going to do with the fuel that people are giving you? Are you going to take it, or are you going to just take it in? I mean, if you take it in, boy, you're going to feel like crap. You're never going to get to the next level. But if you use it for fire, man, imagine where you can go. It's like before we use my boy Gary, lighting a wick, and then all of a sudden letting that firework take off and blowing up in the sky. That's really what you got to do when someone gives you that negativity or a failure. Question number 4 from Gleason. This ought to be an interesting question, because
Terrific.
We just know so many other people. But Ben, who do you know that I should know?
I've got a friend that I met through the gun world, it's funny, if you're at a gun shop, you either run into somebody special forces or somebody who is an expert marksman, knows everything about everything. But the gun shop in Bluffton, it was 21st century. Then it became Preppers 4. It was just a great place to go, hang out and talk with people. Jake Masterson, Jan Masterson, Elliot Nichols. I met a really, really good friend, Chad, saw Frank there. But, just talking with people that you were like-minded, right? It got me, in touch with a guy by the name of Mike Vanover. And it was through a rib judging competition. I sat next to this guy at the gun shop. They had a annual barbecue, and I got picked to be a judge. And I'm not sure if it was because I'm 290 or professional eater or what it was, but I was glad to help in the judging phase of that. And I sat next to him, and we just got shot the shit a little bit and what have you. And I knew of him, but at that time I didn't really know him. And I thought, what a solid guy. He reminded me so much of my cousin Kurt Grimm, and I thought, man, what a solid guy. And we just started, talking. What he invited me to his home, and I did a big gun build for him, 4 custom rifles in a crate that for him and his boys. And it was like that was one of the big pivotal roles in business. Sure. You know what I mean? It was like my boss was like, well, why do you do that? Jeez, that's beautiful. Do that. You should start doing that. So Mike Vanover, really gave me confidence, and I appreciate it. I put a post on Facebook not too long ago. He took the rifle crate, put it in his office. Having the confidence in me to embark on that was nice. So he's a great dude. He's a force-on-force instructor. He owns Clean Fuels International. He's a great guy. Last week on Friday, he said, hey, you need some wood? Because I'm doing some woodworking projects. Hey, come out. And little I know that I was going to be actually cutting it on a sawmill. Had a great time. It was awesome. Who has a sawmill? I
got one in my apartment.
Yeah, he said, well, I always wanted to have a sawmill, so I bought one. It's like, I'm not surprised. So, so Mike Vanover, great guy. And I met him through guns, through firearms, So like-minded people, obviously. Some of my greatest friends through the gun world, which is weird. So right on.
Perfect. I'll meet them all. That sounds good to me. Right on. Right? What the hell?
Absolutely.
Question number 5 is, what have you done that I should do?
Wow. I'm not sure, bud. That's a tough question.
It's a good one. There's no question about it. It's definitely a good one.
I just recently, football is a major portion of my life. Early, my first word was ball, obviously. I think my brother's was butt ball, but my dad played semi-pro ball with my godfather now, John Parks. But football has been a big part of my life. My oldest boy, I coached him. I coached my younger boy, Powell, won a lot of games, championships, flag football and what have you. I loved it. And then they started coaching them, tackle and what have you. They went on to middle school and played. I took a step back and did the coaching or the parent watching thing. Of course, I never really sat down. I walked back.
Of course, that's a good position to take, though. Good perspective.
And they got to high school playing at Homestead. For Chad Zolman, who coached Danny Adams and Anton back in the day at DeWanger. Solid guy, just a great coach, great philosophy, attitude and effort, awesome. But they decided after their freshman year, Keenan and then Liam, that they don't want to play football anymore. And they were really scared to tell me.
Of course they are. They didn't want to let you down. I get that.
And they did. And I was super proud of them that they did. And I thought back, and I thought, well, you know what, they're probably going to, when they're 43, they're probably not going to die getting out of bed like I do in the morning, because they, their neck's going to be in better shape. Their back's going to be in better shape. They have less miles in their body. So they made a decision. They tried it. They didn't want to do it any longer. Obviously, I was waiting for Friday Night Lights. I couldn't wait. I had to do something to pacify myself. So I went all in on this Jeep build, which you're aware of, the Flex J. Mm-hmm. So I kind of just filled that gap, that time I would have spent going to games and practices and what have you. And I said, hey, I'm gonna teach them how to do something with their hands. You remember back in high school days, I had the big old jacked up truck.
Oh yeah.
Gary Graham's Lena gets a tailgate. You remember go around a curve at Frunky Park and hit that big mud puddle. Yeah, we had a great time. So building that Jeep, but I think maybe something like that, teaching your kids some invaluable lesson, and not just positivity, because I'm sure you emulate that to them every day. But something that they're not doing to kids anymore. Kids they're not getting that stuff. They're not getting that one-on-one, this is how you do this, and working through things. I think if you ask my kids that I went around, I know they'd say, my dad's a hard worker, and he's always finding a way to get things done. So I think probably, and I'm sure your kids know you're a hard worker and
Yeah.
all the things you do,
Yeah.
but I think doing something like a big project like that, where you bring them into it, one of these days I'm going to be gone and hopefully that Jeep will still be running, what have you, but something we did together, something like that they can remember for a lifetime, because, gifts you get at Christmas don't mean shit. It's experiences,
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, being a minimalist now, everything you see in here is everything I have to my name. I literally have given away so much, and I focus on the relationships now with my friends and my family more now than ever. And I've thought about this a lot with my kids, and I try so hard. Like, for you, having to build things with your kids is that way. With what I've thought of with my way, and I need to do a better job at this. Is I like to bring my kids into business meetings. And watch them and see how I negotiate different things and have conversations with other adults, because that's what I do really well is like I was joking around earlier, I can't build a sandwich, but I'm good at having conversations, and I think the more my kids see me with adults having conversations, I need to do a better job of getting them involved. I've done a little bit of that, but that's definitely an area that I could definitely 100%.
That's one thing that you really excel in. I mean, from an early age, that's one of the things, you never knew a stranger, you could talk to anybody. Yeah, you're very, very passionate. When you talk, I've never met anybody say, JT's full of shit. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, what a great guy. That's what you hear all the time. So, very good job at projecting yourself. So, that's one of your strong suits. So what you just mentioned, having them come into a meeting, what have you. I remember taking my kids to school or work with me. They had the day off of school and took them all in there to the office, and they're rolling around on my chair and crashing my cars that are up on my shelf, and they eat one another. And then they're watching Austin Powers on the wall with the projector. It was he was about 6 feet high, and they're like, "This is awesome, Dad. You got to do this." No, this is not what we do at work normally. But I think they didn't get a really good chance to see what work was. But I remember going up in the tower with my dad. I remember my dad had a key ring that had like
4,000 keys.
Yeah, I think he probably might have back or knee problems from carrying the keys around.
That's what they would say. You can always tell how important the guy is with how many keys he's got.
He had a lot of keys. But I remember going to the airport, and everybody knew my dad, and being up in the tower and watching planes come in, and and it was just, I remember that time for the rest of my life. So that's probably a good way to
I think that's a good Jeremy Todd way of getting my kids for a project for sure. The last question. Well, actually, let's think of another question. And then I love this question. I heard this it was a podcast with who's the guy that had the Larry King and Cal Fussman. And Cal Fussman's been known as the world's greatest storyteller. And if you ever get a chance, Google that guy. But it was a great question.
I've got to be a close second.
That he asked Larry King. He said, if you had a billboard in the busiest intersection in the world, what would it say and why? I love that one.
Probably get up and get after it, whatever it is. Only what you're after. So we'll go back to the boys not playing football anymore. I said, I don't care what you do. You don't want to play tennis, I'll have one of them retarded hats that don't have a top to them. You'll have the baddest tennis racket in the planet. I don't care what it is, but I think every father wants to see their kid succeed and do something. So I'm saying that I think if you're sitting there, surely what makes you tick. Surely what you like. Whether it just comes right and smacks you upside the head or not, but surely you must know what you like. So whatever it is, get after it. If you're not going to get after it, somebody's going to get after it.
So your billboard's going to say, get after it?
Get up and get after it.
I love that. That's so solid. I'm skipping jump into this. I've got 2 more questions left, and I'm going to skip this one. I know you said you're not the biggest book reader in the world, but one of the questions is, what have you read that I should read?
Lone Survivor, Marcus Luttrell's story.
I love Marcus Luttrell. I've heard him multiple times on multiple podcasts. That dude's he's just a different dude, man. And what he's went through. And there's a movie was called Lone Survivor.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mark Wahlberg plays it, which
I've never read the book though.
I love Mark Wahlberg, but he did a terrible job as Marcus Luttrell.
Well, it's hard to do Marcus Luttrell because he's such a beast.
Well, you know what Marcus Luttrell said? He was sitting in the around a conference room table, had all the actors. Mark Wahlberg was in there. I cannot think of the guy that is the director, Mike. I cannot think of his name. Anyways, they're all around the room in there. And he said, I want to let you guys know, we're going to make this movie and I'm okay with that, but I'm going to be on site when you're filming and try to make it as real as possible to what happened. And he said, and if you discredit or dishonor one of my friends, I'll kill everybody in this room. And his attorney was like, you can't say that. And I'm thinking, well, he just did.
But he's the one guy that can say that.
He's a bad dude. But, in that book, which I read, 3-4 times, my brother Scott gave it to me. Wow. Marcus Luttrell said what got him through SEAL school was knowing that they feed us every 2 hours. Whether it be a snack or whether it be a full-blown dinner, they feed us every 2 hours. So I don't have to think, how am I going to get through BUDS? How am I going to get through, SEAL training, which is the craziest training ever, right? He said, I only got to go 2 hours. I only got to think about the next 2 hours. The next 2 hours till I get fed. And then the next 2 hours. And, you've heard the cliche, eating an elephant. You can't do it. Yeah. You can't eat an elephant in one setting, but you can over a lifetime. So it's those little chips away and things. Marcus Luttrell mentioned that. When I read that, it just really resonated with me. Obviously, I've heard those things before, but, you're putting yourself into that book. I don't read books very often. When I do, I read them. You know what I mean? I'm really into the thing. I couldn't put it down. But, he just kept reciting Psalms. He started thinking about church on Sunday, and his mom always made him wear Sunday best, and, he's a Texas boy, had a twin brother, but it was just about, just such a great book because the guy was the lone survivor. He's out there by himself, nobody. He's over in freaking Afghanistan. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a great story. And if you haven't listened to that story or just Google him one time and everything in the world's going to come up with the guy's an absolute monster, good beast. And he's such a great storyteller too. And very well spoken. And I just, very humbling too. Like you wouldn't, based on the conversation that I've heard, you wouldn't know that he's been through hell and back. It was a crazy story. But that's a great call.
This is one part that I wanted to mention this. They were young boys. Marcus, his brother Morgan, there was a couple other kids in the neighborhood. Twin brother, that's correct. They were in different SEAL classes. But both Navy SEALs, obviously. Proud mother and father there, I'm sure. But it's a couple kids in the neighborhood, and I guess they went. I think the guy's name was Billy Sheldon. He was a former, Vietnam veteran or what have you. One of those scary guys in the neighborhood everybody was afraid to talk to. They kept going up and asking him to train us. Hey, train us. And he's like, well, get off my lawn. They kept coming back. Finally, he said, all right, be here tomorrow. And he gave some ridiculous time that all 4 of the boys showed up. And they worked and worked and worked. He PT'd them like crazy, training them, mindset, obviously, not just physical. And I think one of them was like a Delta, Army Delta, which is the SEALs of the Army. I think there was a recon Marine, and then 2 of them were SEALs. And they both made it through some of the most grueling training ever. And it was this guy in the house that everybody was scared of. And I think there could be a handful of people like that in the 08 when we grew up down by PB that could have been, those types of people. But I think, wow, it's a great book. If you haven't read it, you should read it. Read it on audiobook or whatever, it's great.
Yeah, that's where I take in most of my books is audio because it just saves so. For me, I listen in the car, I listen to when I'm doing dishes. It's just very similar to podcasts. That's why I listen to so many different podcasts. Is that I don't really watch TV. I don't really have enough time to watch TV, but I'd rather listen to podcasts and just totally nerd out on all kinds of different stuff. That'll be the next book I listen to. So my last, this is great. This just shows you the last few books I've listened to. So you go from. The next book will be Marcus Luttrell's book, Lone Survivor for sure. Expert Secrets about ClickFunnels. Michelle Obama's book, Becoming. And then I listened to Hamilton before that. So all over the map. There's no rhyme or reason, but just getting different perspectives. And that's what, again, beautiful thing about this life in this world, that we can gain all kinds of different interesting perspectives and see where people come from. And that's what I love the most. Final question, Ben Gleason. Question number 7, well, technically number 9 is, how can I add value to you?
Wow. I was talking with Mike Canfies today, and we talk about legacy. doesn't matter at the end of your life. It doesn't matter what you acquire. Obviously, I know you're a minimalist, but you like toys,
I got my rifle.
Yeah, safe place, thanks you.
Absolutely.
So, and we're going to train you up on that puppy, and your kids, because that's important. So that's one of the things, why I do what I do. But it's amazing to see the smile on people's face when they crack one off for the first time, or when they leave the shop and they bring their boy. Jeff Diver, shout out to him. He brought his son, learned about taking a rifle apart, and his boy had, we got done. I said, "Did you learn anything?" He said, "Oh yeah." I said, "What'd you learn?" "I learned this, I learned that," whatever. It was great. But, back to the question or what have you. I'm just thinking, I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Repeat that piece.
How can I add value to you?
Value. So we're talking about legacy. I apologize. Talking about legacy, and I think it's all the people you touch. You're going to be one of these days, me probably, laying in my bed surrounded by my 7 kids and their spouses, and I hope boatloads of grandkids and what have you. And it's about what your legacy about that. You're helping my legacy. You being a 37-year friend. I mean, we kindergarten graduation, buddy. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, the 08 was such a great, everybody's house. You're playing it like, I mean, kids don't understand that these days. I mean, they're on Fortnite and freaking TikTok and all this other bullshit, which I ain't gonna lie, TikTok's pretty funny. I'll be laughing my ass off. I mean, we're all sending stuff back and forth to each other all the time. It's hilarious. But anyways, but how can you help me? This is helping me. Sometimes just talking about things like this, just talking, it really almost gets you centered, in a way. And it's amazing how good I feel about it. I was a little hesitant on the way over because I'm like, I've never done this before.
Don't even worry about it, brother.
Yeah, right. You just talk, right? So, and I'm a talker. Those of you that know me know that I'm a talker, so it shouldn't be a problem theoretically. But just doing this, wow, it's really, I talked to Mike Danley the other day. This is a prime example, and I think I told you this on the phone today. He said, "Man, you're really doing what you like, aren't you? You've always been." And I thought, yeah, I never thought of it that way. Yeah. I never thought of it that way. So you're adding value to my life by bringing me on, having confidence in me, supporting me. You said, hey, if I'm going to buy a gun from somebody, I'll buy a gun from Benjamin Gleason. I mean,
no question. What is the question?
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. So,
yeah, I think that it goes a lot back to, when you talk about legacy, I do this show, and it also ties back into doing what you love to do. I've said this 1,000 times on the show. This show really, I love interviewing people. I love meeting people from around the world and having great conversations about just helping people. I get these random emails that are like, hey, you've changed my life. Or I thought about committing suicide and your podcast changed my life. And you get a lot of those and man, they are so emotional. But recently with the craziness going on in this world with that, I had a buddy of mine passed away from alcoholism Sunday. My cousin is getting ready to pass away for alcoholism, like hardcore booze. My sister getting COVID. People passing away left and right. It just seems like that for some reason. And it's very, it makes me think how, and then, also going back and looking at the universe and how small we are. We're only on this planet for such a small amount of time. And, my day may be tomorrow. Your day may be tomorrow. Someone listening to the show's day may be tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know. But that being said, what I've really come to realize is, man, life is so short. I'm not worried about when my end comes. But if I tie it back into the reason I do the podcast is because when I pass away and you talk about legacy, my kids, my grandkids, and my grandkids can go back and listen to the podcast and say, what was Grandpa or great Grandpa Jeremy like? And this is really what I'm like. I mean, this isn't, I put all my dirt out there. I put everything out there. I'm vulnerable. I'm authentic. But again, nowadays, man, it's just so important to be who you are and go for your passions, go for your goals, go for your dreams, because man, you never know when your last day is. And then that's why I do the show. And that's why I have people on. That's why I love being on too. So it's important. For all the people out there listening, man, I hope you enjoyed the episode. run over to jeremytodd.com, buy that $10 Mickey Holla book, buy a couple of them, hand them out to the peeps. Sign up for the Monday Motivation. I really haven't been pushing that much, and I really haven't been doing any videos, but I need to get that going again. So sign up for that on YouTube, or get on YouTube for sure. Two things: sign up for the Monday Motivation, get on YouTube, subscribe to that YouTube channel. I think I've got 100 people on there, which is 100 more than I thought I'd ever have. So that's going great too. But hey man, if you just want some inspiration, motivation, some funny, goofy dudes, just go ahead and fire. What you got for me?
Man, what you were hitting on, and it just kind of struck me, and I've also got to read this because I don't know it by heart, but it's a quote from Tecumseh. It says, "So live your life that the fear of death can no longer enter your heart. Trouble no one about their religion. Respect others and their views. Demand that they respect yours. Love your family. Perfect your life. Beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life as long and its purpose service of your people. Prepare a noble song for the day when you go to the great divide. Always give a word or a sign of salute when meeting a passer by or a friend, even a stranger in a lonely place. Show respect to all people. Bow to none. When you arise in the morning, give thanks for the food and the joy of living. If you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies only in yourself." I stress that because that's awesome. Abuse no one, and nothing. For abuse, it turns the wise ones to fools and robs the spirit of the vision. And lastly, when it comes to your time to die, be not like those hearts that are filled with the fear of death, so that when their time comes, they weep and they pray for a little more time to live their lives over again in a different way. Sing your death song and die like a hero going home.
Yeah, man, that's exactly what it's about, man. That's beautiful. I love it. Was it Tecumseh?
Tecumseh, Chief Tecumseh. Solid dude. Absolutely.
Salute. I appreciate everybody listening to around the world. Much love watching this. Make sure you like, share to someone that you love, share to someone that you care about. I say it in every single episode, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. You've got greatness within. Like always, this is the positive side.